The mail never stops in the land of Hyrule. The postman moves ever onward, and good thing too. Link and Midna are searching for the shards of the Mirror of Twilight. The final shard is in the sky, and a letter from the shaman of Kakariko Village, Renato, will send them down the path of finding that final shard. Renato's letter is brief. There's something about Ilia's memory that I wish to tell you. I know you are very busy, but please come visit my sanctuary in Kakariko Village. This is Legendary Adventures, a Legend of Zelda playthrough podcast. This week we're helping Ilia regain her lost memory, and helping Shad the Scholar unlock the secrets of the sky in order to obtain the final shard of the Mirror of Twilight. A small crowd has gathered inside the sanctuary of the shaman Renato. There is of course the shaman and Ilia, Link's amnesiac crush. There are also two leaders of the Goron tribe, Darbus, the patriarch and ruler of the tribe, and Gor-Koron, the Goron chief elder, who ruled the tribe when Darbus was transformed into the monster known as Virus. Gor-Koron explains Darbus heard Ilia lost her memory, and was in need of some help, which is why he came. Gor-Koron is there for reasons of his own, but he will also help. Renato informs us that Shad is also inside the sanctuary as part of his research into the heavens, and the legendary sky people known as the Uka. He's in the basement inspecting a statue. Renato has learned that when Ilia was saved, she overheard someone talking about a Rod of the Heavens. The Goron Elder suggests that they retrace Ilia's steps to find something that may jog her memory. Renato gives Link a letter for Telma in order to get them started, since Telma was caring for Ilia before she came to Kakariko. He would deliver it himself, but admits that he can't stand Telma. It seems her love for the shaman will go forever unrequited. Telma reads Renato's letter and is miffed that he did not mention her once. However, she is game to help Ilia. She mentions the doctor brought Ilia to the bar. The doctor will know something, but Telma notes that he's not likely to help. So she gives Link the doctor's astronomical bar tab to use as leverage. The doctor lets out a scream the moment he sees the tab. He believes Link is a heavy that Telma has hired in order to strong-arm him into paying. But he denies having any money. He mentioned that he planned to sell a wooden statue that Ilia had, but he spilled some smelly medicine on it, and when he placed it outside to air out, it was stolen. He then walks off, pretending to be busy. With the doctor's back turned, Link can transform into a wolf. He can learn the scent of the medicine by pushing a box aside that's been placed over a puddle of the stuff. We then follow the scent. It leads us back to Telma's bar. Telma's cat Louise admits to stealing the statue, but she says she was attacked by a pack of skeletal dogs which took it from her. We can find the skeleton dogs just south of Castletown. They are just beyond the steps of the south gate, and they only come out at night, much like the stall children of Ocarina of Time. However, these are wolves to match the theming of Twilight Princess. When we kill the entire pack, the statue appears. It's sort of like a miniature totem pole topped with a Sheikah eye symbol. We return to Kakariko Village and present the statue to Ilia. It unlocks a hazy memory. When she was kidnapped, she was confined somewhere with someone else. The person that she was confined with set her free and gave her the statue. She knows whoever that person was, they must still be in trouble. But where or who that person was, she can't remember. "I remember," Gor-Koron suddenly shouts. He says the statue belongs to the people who protected the Hylian family long ago. They lived in a hidden village. There is said not to be many of those people left due to prolonged wars. Gor-Koron says the village can be found north of the Bridge of Eldin. A rock slide closed off the path, however. Darbus goes ahead to clear the rocks so that Link can reach it. When we find the village, Darbus has opened the way. He can smell monsters up ahead. They are stragglers from a much stronger monstrous force. There are 30, no, 20 in all, and it's Link's job to take them out. What follows is a Hollywood Western-style shootout, down to the music with its whistled melody and twangy backing instrumentation. We need to take out 20 Boblins in the village before the person who saved Ilia will reveal themselves. This is one of the most memorable sequences in the game, as players make their way through the Old West-style town. This particular sequence actually started life as a side quest. It was created by writer and cinema scene director Mitsuhiro Takano. In an Iwata Asks interview, he said, "I really wanted to use the theme of an old Western cowboy film this time around." He continued, "When I first wanted to do a Western, everyone just stared at me with blank faces, but once I started working on it with the intention of making it a sub-event, everyone really got on board with the idea. I tend to put my efforts into things that aren't part of the main story," he laughed. "I think I have a tendency to do that because the other part of my job, which is organizing the story, is rather serious business." This sequence was made part of the main story quest at the request of producer and Zelda series co-creator Shigeru Miyamoto. It was one of his classic overturning the tea table moves. Miyamoto requested a number of changes in the final months of development, including a major overhaul of the game's opening. In an Iwata Asks interview, writer Aya Kiyogoku recalled Miyamoto's decision to weave this quest into the main story came just as they were finishing reworking the beginning of the game. She said, "So we made the changes, and just when I was thinking we were going to make it in time, the table was overturned again when it was decided to tie a sub-event into the game's main narrative. So I got in touch with everyone around the world and told them, it's going to change again. Personally speaking, I felt that the table was being constantly overturned. When we somehow managed to finish in time for the release date, I thought, so that must be The Legend of Zelda. Once the last Boblin in the village falls, a door on a home on the south side of the village unlocks and opens. An old woman peeks out. This is Impaz, the survivor of the Sheikah. She is the one who saved Ilia, but she did not leave the village herself because she's under order from the royal family to stay until a certain person arrives. Ilia had mentioned Link during her captivity and said that he would come to the rescue. She gave Impaz a charm to protect her. Impaz gives the charm to Link and asks him to return it to Ilia. We're intended to head back to Kakariko Village in order to pass on that charm and restore her memory. If we do so, Ilia reveals that Impaz is waiting for a messenger from the heavens who carries a rod. Then we're supposed to return to the hidden village to show the Dominion Rod to Impaz. Or we could just show it to her now, before we leave. Impaz explains the Dominion Rod was given to the Hylians by people from the sky. The rod was somehow used to communicate with the sky people, the Uka. Impaz gives Link a book that was intended to be given to the messenger of the heavens. When Link receives the ancient sky book, it's noted that it's missing some characters. There are a couple more things to do in the hidden village. If we leave and come back to the village, it will be packed full of cats. A chicken behind one of the houses is known as the Cuckoo Leader. It will charge Link to speak with 20 cats within the village. If he does so, he'll receive a piece of heart. It's kind of a parody of the Shootout, reduced to a non-violent cat fest. There's also a howling stone near the Cuckoo Leader. This time Link howls the C section of the overworld theme, or main theme of the game. I refer to it as Link's Courage theme. The Gold Wolf has the castle behind it. It challenges Link to find him, and the wolf's location is marked on the map. It is Hyrule Castle. We find the wolf just inside the gate. He teaches the 6th hidden skill, the Jump Strike. It's a charged jump attack. Some of you may be thinking, wait, wasn't the Hidden Village Howling Stone the final one in the game? And shouldn't this be the final hidden skill? Well, I suspect that for a majority of players it is, but I spaced heading to the graveyard to get the hidden skill that I unlocked on Snow Peak, so I will get the final hidden skill later. If we have not visited Ilia yet, we visit her and give her the charm to restore her memory. There's a little scene as she and Link reconnect, where the kids from Ordon spy on them through the window. Everyone leaves to give them some space except for Tallow. He has to be pulled away. The charm is a horse call that was intended to be a present for Link. With it, Link can call his horse from anywhere on the map where the horse can appear. Down in the basement, we find Shad inspecting an owl statue. Statues like this are found in a variety of locations across Hyrule. This particular statue is a little different from the others in that it does not have a visible hole in the center, and therefore cannot be controlled by the Dominion Rod. Not that we could try anyway with the current depowered rod. When we present the Skybook to Shad, he is able to read it. He attempts to cast a spell found in the book on the owl statue. Nothing happens. Shad slinks away dejected. However, the Dominion Rod is restored. We need to get the missing characters to complete the Skybook. We find them under owl statues scattered across the world. There are 6 statues that we're searching for. Each one has an additional platforming puzzle associated with it. We need to move the statues around in order to reach otherwise inaccessible chests. Most hold rupees, but 2 lead to heart pieces. One is near Kakariko Gorge, south of the village. The second is in Faron Province, behind a bombable boulder near Koro's oil shop. The additional puzzle for this one leads to a heart piece. Just make sure that you do the puzzle before getting the character, or just hold off putting the statue in place to reach that heart piece until after you get the character. If you put it in place and then get the character before grabbing the heart piece, the statue will reset. The third is on the Bridge of Eldin. This one can also be used to access a piece of heart. The fourth is on the Nehru Province overlooking Lake Hylia. The fifth is north of the Great Bridge of Hylia. The sixth is in south-central Gerudo Desert. Once we gather all the letters, we return to the basement of the sanctuary, and again give the book to Shad. He says a new magic word, and the owl statue changes to match the others. Shad is once again disappointed that he seems no closer to reaching the sky. He skulks away, seemingly determined to miss everything that Link does to save Hyrule. We move the statue to reveal a door. Inside, we find a room with a giant cannon. Shad returns and helpfully identifies this as a cannon that can shoot a person to the sky. Of course, it can't be fired indoors, meaning we need to get it out. We've already transported a number of items using Midna's warp ability and fast travel points. Midna says she can warp the cannon out, but she refuses to do it if Shad is still in the room. We speak to Shad, and he instinctively knows that Link wants him to leave, even though Link says nothing. As he departs, he mentions the cannon is broken, giving us a further hint on where to take it. We warp the cannon to Lake Hylia. Fire, the cannon operator, had an option to ask for special repairs ever since the very first moment we met him. This is where we put those special repairs to work. He notices Link's cannon. It's pretty old school, but he can fix it. The price is 300 rupees, which was no problem for me. Twilight Princess throws rupees at players often. In fact, if players rounded up the optional chests while chasing the Sky characters, they're pretty much guaranteed to have at least 300 rupees. We pay up, and Fire puts in several days' work on the cannon. Luckily for us, they fly by in only a few seconds thanks to a cutscene. Once the cannon is fixed, we can blast off. We use the claw shot to enter the cannon. Uku follows us inside, and we're launched into the sky. Link and Uku land in a pool of water that serves as the entrance to the flying city of the Uka. She offers to give Link a tour, but their conversation is interrupted when a large armored dragon flies overhead. Another Uka runs out of a nearby building, chattering up a storm. The Uka converse, and can you believe it? There's a raging dragon plaguing the city. Uku says she's going to the shop to check for survivors and runs off. The city in the sky spans 8 floors. It has 5 above-ground levels and 3 basement levels. At least that's how they're categorized. Technically, they're all above ground, way above ground among the clouds. The city is made out of white stone with gold accents. Occasionally, there are other colors like red or blue. The buildings are rounded and some are straight up egg-shaped. This city was obviously built using advanced ancient technology. It features doors that open without a push from Link, and propellers and fans in a number of locations. The city has also clearly seen better days. It's ancient and crumbling. There's a dragon apparently causing additional damage in the present. But many of the crumbling structures are clearly ancient. Ivy and moss grows over some of the surfaces, both broken and unbroken. This is the 4th time that Link has visited the sky in a mainline Legend of Zelda game. And this space, perhaps more than any previous space, takes some inspiration from Hayao Miyazaki's Laputa, the titular castle in the sky from his 1986 movie. Our first stop is the shop that Uku headed for. There are high winds in this outdoor area of the city, so Link needs to be careful not to get blown off. Inside the shop, we of course find Uku, who again agrees to come with Link. Instead of warping him fully out of the dungeon though, she'll warp him just back to the shop. We can of course purchase items in this shop. But before moving on, can we talk a bit about the Uka? The city does not really seem to be built for them. The doors are all human-sized. The counters in the shop also seem to have been built for something like a human. The shopkeeper sits on a perch, which is an Uka touch, but there generally does not seem to be any infrastructure or housing, and at least not outside the shop any furniture that's designed for an Uka. If we speak to Shad after completing the Arbiter's grounds, he tells us the legend of the Uka. He says the Uka were a race even closer to the gods than the Hylians, and they reportedly built their capital city and floated it into the sky at the time that the Hylia were born. The game makes it clear from Shad's comments, the Temple of Time, the Hidden Village, and the City in the Sky that the Uka are supposed to be a more ancient and more advanced people than the Hylians. And I don't buy it for a second. As I said, their city does not seem to be built for them. The ancient artifact that they apparently made, the Dominion Rod, is obviously not built for them. There's no possible way that they could use it. The city is crumbling and falling apart, and as we head into the dungeon proper, we find the Uka are not characters in distress as Uka seems to suggest. They are instead essentially chickens. Link even grabs them and uses them to glide over gaps. We never speak to an Uka beyond Uku and the shopkeeper, and they never show any concern or even any conscious knowledge of what's going on. Ultimately, I can't shake the feeling that there is a real disconnect between the story and the design. The game plays them up as being advanced and sophisticated, but from beginning to end, they're reduced to mere items to be used by the player. Likewise, the Dominion Rod is established as having been invented by the Uka. It is essential for reaching their city, and yet it's never used even once inside the city. The city is roughly cross-shaped. It's divided into roughly 4 nodes. We start in the central node, which terminates in the central room of the dungeon. There's another node to the north, which is the final one that players will tackle. There are also nodes to the east and west. The nodes are largely self-contained, though not completely. For example, players start out by heading into the west node. Remember to reverse these directions for a mirrored version. But they only get a key in the west, which they need to access the east node. In order to reach this key on the west, players duck around a corner and use the claw shot to cross a gap in order to reach a gear-shaped spinner slot. They use it to extend a bridge to the west. Then they enter the west node and grab the key. There's a lower level of the node that's clearly visible, but it's not accessible at this point, establishing that we will return here. As players head back towards the central room, the armored dragon appears and destroys the bridge in a cutscene. This closes the west node off completely until after players obtain the dungeon item. We head to the east, and we again use the spinner to extend a bridge to reach the node. We use the iron boots to walk through some gusts of air from fans. Before we do, players should shut off one of those fans by hitting a hidden crystal switch. Players press forward by first heading south and then taking on 2 rooms of platforming challenges. They activate a gust of air which will carry them to a higher floor. We wind our way up through a longer central area of the node to eventually make our way to a tall, circular shaft room on the north. We descend the shaft using the claw shot and uka while avoiding gusts of wind. At the bottom of the shaft, we head through a door to the west. We use the claw shot and the iron boots together to activate a spherical switch hanging from the ceiling. This shuts off a fan in the floor, and then we descend to reach the mini-boss. The mini-boss is an Aeralphos, basically a lizard man with wings. Aeralphos are somewhat rare, but they are nonetheless a standard enemy of the game. It's being introduced here, though, as a mini-boss. The same thing happened with the Dark Nut in the Temple of Time. Introducing enemies in the game as mini-bosses only to have them become standard enemies in the game was something that was common in the Wind Waker, but it's something that Twilight Princess only does in 2 dungeons. The Aeralphos is armed with a sword and shield. The shield is clearly a claw shot target. It will raise its shield while preparing for a diving attack, so we can grab it, pull it to the ground, and land some hits. The shield attack and the helm splitter are extremely effective against the Aeralphos. It falls without too much trouble. Once it's gone, a gate high up on the wall opens. We reach it with the claw shot. Through the gate, we find a chest with the dungeon item inside. It's another claw shot. With 2 claw shots combined, we now have double claw shots. This will allow us to travel point to point without ever touching the ground. We exit the room by hanging from a ceiling on a claw shot target, and then grapple to a patch of ivy growing on the side of the fan that we shut off earlier. We use the claw shots to ascend the shaft that we descended earlier until we reach a spherical ceiling switch. This opens a gate on the first basement level, which we claw shot our way through. We then use the claw shots to zip across a room with no floor and head back west to the central room. We pick up the compass along the way. We get back to the central area by using the claw shots to cross on the bottom of the bridge that we extended earlier. When we head back to the east, the bridge is destroyed, but thanks to some conveniently placed P-hats, we can use the claw shots to get back to the east node. In past Zelda games, P-hats were enemies. Twilight Princess re-envisions them as neutral entities that strictly serve as claw shot targets. The twist is that the P-hats can move. The first P-hats we find in the dungeon are stationary. We use the claw shot to get to the lower area of the east node, and then we work our way through the basement levels, using the claw shots to make our way around a tall, round shaft room on the east. We ascend this shaft using the claw shots. About halfway up, we navigate a narrow walkway and use the claw shot to reach a hidden alcove, which has a chest with a heart piece in it. After ascending the shaft, we move back south, and we use P-hats and the claw shots to slowly make our way through the 3rd floor of the east node. We have to extend the chain to just the right length in order to get Link through some of the gaps. We use P-hats and the claw shots to cross back from the east node to the 3rd floor of the central node. As we're making our way back across, players may notice a second line of P-hats leading back to the east node. If players follow this line, they can reach a chest which holds the second heart piece. In the central node, we use the claw shot and tight ropes to reach the 4th floor of the center building. Inside, we find the big key. It's right under a spherical switch on the ceiling, which turns off a fan on the 3rd floor. Make sure not to miss this switch. I wasn't as careful checking things out in the rooms as I should have been on my HD playthrough, and I wound up wasting a lot of time and backtracking because of it. There's a hole in the floor allowing us to drop down to the 3rd floor. We can then descend on the claw shot chain through the fan and grapple onto a spherical switch high on the ceiling of the 2nd floor. This starts a fan to the north, allowing us to access the north node. We travel to the north node and ascend it, using rotating panels. It's a fairly slow process. On the ascent, we have to find a couple of crystal switches to hit to turn on 2 additional fans. Once at the top, we pass through the big key door. This leads outside again. And we make one final ascent to the 5th floor in order to reach the boss. The boss is the Twilight dragon, Argorok. This fight plays out in 2 phases. Likewise, the boss music plays out in 2 phases. Argorok shares a musical theme with Morpheal. Each boss has a unique first phase arrangement of this theme, but the second phase arrangement is the same for both. Here's how the first phase music sounded for Morpheal. Notice its underwater feel. And here's how it sounds for Argorok. Again, the second phase music is the same for each boss. It's a bigger, more dramatic arrangement of the same musical theme. During Argorok's first phase, we need to use the claw shots to grab onto its tail, and we use the iron boots to weigh the dragon down and bring it crashing to the ground. Part of its armor breaks off each time it hits the ground. There are large pillars on the sides of the arena that we will sometimes need to scale with the claw shots in order to reach the dragon. Once we bring it down twice, the second phase begins. A glowing weak spot is revealed on the dragon's back. It breaks off the rest of its armor, meaning we can no longer grab it by the tail. Rain begins to fall, which in turn revives pea-hats that are buried in the ground. They rise up into the air and form a ring at the top of the arena. We grapple up, and the rest of the fight plays out with us grappling between the pea-hats. We need to lure the dragon into breathing fire. We can do this by remaining in one spot. As it prepares to let out a stream of flame, we grapple around to the pea-hats to avoid getting hit. After the flame stops, Argorok gets tired for a moment. We can grapple around to reach its back. We then grapple onto the weak spot and wail away. We repeat this 3 times. In the final round, Argorok will suddenly change the direction it's breathing fire in an attempt to catch us off guard, but we can simply change direction and deliver the final blow. The final mirror shard is ours. As Midna takes it, she reminds us of what the sages said. Only the true ruler of the Twilight can completely destroy the mirror. Zant could only break it into shards, which is proof of his false kingship. Midna urges us to return to the mirror room on the top of the Arbiter's grounds, so we can travel to the Twilight Realm and take the fight directly to Zant. We'll do that next week. If you want to follow along, please subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, thank you. I really appreciate you. You are awesome. I'm Paul Riley, and I will see you next week.